Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to AmCham's and HIPA's Competitive Workforce Conference, Recovery Playbook for Resilient Organizations. We are very excited to have you with us today. Thanks for joining the conference. Competitive workforce has been always very high on AmCham's agenda. Whatever topic we started to discuss, we could be sure that we are going to end up talking about the workforce. This is a topic, according to surveys, taking the sleep away of leaders, and the biggest worry is how to find the right workforce, the right people with the adequate skills, competencies, and motivation. COVID-19 only made the situation even more complicated, as it accelerated tendencies which already happened, like remote working and the importance of upskilling and reskilling, and posed new challenges like how to manage and how to lead remote teams, how to onboard new people. And it is no change and no exception to AmCham as well, as I feel very strange that I have to talk to my fellow friend technicians instead of sharing the experience with you. Today we are going to try to give answers to questions which were posed during the last 15 months, and we will share the views, and rest assured that you will have the opportunity to actively participate, and we will have 3 occasions where you are going to be asked to share your views and also to network with your fellow members. HIPA has always been a very great partner, organizing platforms and opportunities for our members to share their views and share best practices and network. It is the 7th consecutive year that we have been organizing the Business Meets Government conferences and the competitive education conferences and today's conference. So I would like to give a big thanks to HIPA and to Mr. Ésik for being a great partner in it. Before we start the conference, I would also like to express my gratitude to our sponsors who made it possible that we can be here with you today. Arconic-Köfém, Bridgestone, British Telecommunications, Citi, ExxonMobil, Philip Morris International, PwC, Tata Consultancy Services, and Telenor. Gentlemen, I would like to welcome you, Róbert Ésik, the CEO of HIPA, the Hungarian Investment Promotion Agency, and Zoltán, Szabó, the president of AmCham. We have gained experience in the last 15 months of working differently and giving answer from one day to another to challenges we haven't experienced before. Thanks to the vaccination and thanks to our common effort, we are embarking on the road to recovery and we are opening up our life again. We would like to understand what is the new normal, where do you think we stand today, and what are the priorities?
In the last 14 months, we faced an unprecedented challenge. In order to help our members' businesses survive from the very beginning, AmCham provided a platform to exchange ideas, share best practices, and also together we came up with countless recommendations to the government related to the labor law, flexi-working, Kurzarbeit, R&D subsidies, training, and you name it. But now it's time to move forward. Now it's time to think about how to become better. It's time to think about how to become even stronger once the pandemic is over. And the COVID-19 was an excellent catalyst to reinvent our structures, procedures, and the entire way of working. It's a great opportunity to think differently, to move away from the standardized solutions. And AmCham will provide a platform for this thinking, and we will support the efforts to reignite the businesses, the business community, and essentially the entire economy.
Róbert?
So good morning, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm happy to be here again, hopefully at one of the last hybrid events before we can meet face-to-face again with all of you. So where do we stand and what are the priorities as we are opening up the economy again? First of all, I think it makes sense to remind everyone that the pandemic is a challenge both from a healthcare and an economic point of view. And very quickly on the healthcare side, I just would like to highlight the fact that at the moment, based on the data of yesterday, 53% of the Hungarian population is vaccinated versus the European average of 37%, which of course is also relevant from an economic perspective because this vaccination rate enables us to open up the economy, as Iris, you have been referring to it already. From the economic point of view, you might remember that we have launched an economic action plan, the value of which amounted to 18 to 20% of the GDP. It had four main pillars. On the one hand side, protecting existing jobs. Secondly, supporting companies which are ready to make investments even during the difficult times of the pandemic. Third, introducing some sector-specific measures, especially to support sectors which have been the hardest hit. And last but not least, we had a fourth pillar, which was about ensuring liquidity to companies, providing loans and extra guarantees to help the companies go through these difficult times. Now, where do we stand? I think I can illustrate this with three data points. Number one, we have at the moment 4.5 million people at work and paying taxes, which is the same amount as pre-COVID. So I think it's a great result. Number two, just yesterday, the OECD has increased its GDP forecast for Hungary from 2.6% in December to 4.6%. And I think it shows that all the actors are now expecting the Hungarian GDP to perform quite well between 4 and 6% until the end of 2021. And maybe last but not least, closer to our field of activity, the investment rate in the Hungarian economy in the first quarter of 2021 amounted to 27+%, which is again putting us in the leaderboard of the European Union. So where are the priorities going forward? I think based on these results, number one, we can now focus on relaunching the economy instead of protecting the jobs. We can now move away from ensuring liquidity to enhancing productivity again. And last but not least, we should continue to be competitive in this fight for the reallocation of corporate capacities. So I think those are the guiding priorities from an economic development point of view.
Thank you. Resiliency has been a key word for the last 15 months. Zoltán, what does resiliency mean to you and why do you think it is important?
COVID-19 was a wake-up call for many of us because we had difficulties to respond to the unprecedented challenge. And therefore, resiliency came to the forefront of all business planning. You must be resilient to cope with the unknown, the unforeseen. Therefore, resiliency to me is the part of foresight. It's about preparedness. It's about flexibility. It's about efficiency translated to all functions and parts of the businesses, starting from the leadership to the entire organization. Resiliency was also a key principle what we worked with when created AmCham's policy agenda 21-25 or strategic guidelines to enable the smart and sustainable growth, to build a transparent business environment, and also develop a skilled and healthy workforce.
Thank you. Robert, by nature of your position, you talk to investors from all over the world on a daily basis. Is there any change in their approach when they are making decisions on FDI? What do they look for when they speak about the workforce? How can you summarize the changes, if there is at all changes?
Right. I mean, first of all, talking about global FDI, we have to point out that 2020 was not the year for FDI if you look at the global scale, because foreign direct investments globally were shrinking by 42%. Now, in this global context, we here in Hungary have performed our third most successful year, and we have accumulated investments in a value of more than 4 billion euros, which I think is quite remarkable. And when it comes to corporate decisions which are being taken nowadays, what we can notice is that companies start to take into account the stability of supply chains more and more. In the previous days, if there was a cheaper product coming from the Far East, they clearly opted for that without, thinking about any supply chain risk, or maybe thinking about it but not putting a high weighting to it. Nowadays, we can observe that closeness to the customers and closeness to the suppliers is becoming more important, and this is actually opening up opportunities for our region here in Central Eastern Europe and also for Hungary. When it comes to the workforce, it is clear that companies are not willing to make any compromise on the quality of the labor pool and on the quality of the people that they hire. Just yesterday, I had the opportunity to meet an investor which is currently considering setting up a business service center somewhere in the region. And for them, it is clearly about the quality and not so much about the price when it comes to the location selection. And maybe one more aspect when it comes to the labor pool is that companies are looking forward to extending the addressable labor pool as a result of the pandemic. As remote working, home office has become more of a standard, they see this also as an opportunity for hiring individuals, not just locally, but potentially from a wider geographical area.
Thank you, Robert. It will be interesting to hear the views of the business leaders later on today, how they see the same situation. And last but not least, I would like to ask you, what are your expectations from today's conference?
We have many business leaders here from virtually all sectors facing the same or similar issues at least. So I'm keen to learn the various perspectives. I'm keen to understand how they approach the new normal, how they're gonna change their approach to leadership, modify their organization, strengthen their workforce, and so on and so forth. I'm positive that we're gonna learn a lot of interesting stories, a lot of insightful stories, and by the end of the day, we're gonna learn a lot from each other. So with that, I wish all of you a very great conference.
Thank you, Zoltán. And you, Robert?
Well, as it was mentioned, these are unprecedented times. So I think also for me personally, it would be interesting to hear how corporate leaders have been coping with the situation during the last 15 months. And maybe also where do they need some kind of support from the policy point of view. And based on that, we could take away some learnings and maybe put together other additional useful proposals from a policy perspective. And with this, I also wish a successful conference to all participants.
Thanks a lot. As we could hear from Robert and Zoltán, the time has come to look ahead. And we are here to explore how technology is going to help us even furthermore, and how can we foster innovation and cooperation in a hybrid environment. I am very pleased to have here with us Ashok Krish, Global Head Digital Workplace Practices from Tata Consultancy Services. Mr. Krish, the floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Ashok Krish. I head the Digital Workplace Unit for Tata Consultancy Services globally. My work involves the intersection of the infrastructure, applications, and the employee experience aspect of the future of work. And as you might imagine, my team has been pretty busy over the last 1 year helping Fortune 1000 customers really think about the future of work during these challenging times. Right? So if you really think about the first question, which is what kind of trends are you seeing in 2021 in the context of the workplace? I'll essentially talk about two critical things. One is the fact that we're essentially now in a world where you need persona-centric, anytime, anywhere, cloud-powered workplaces, right? So this idea that you are now the workplace, not the physical office. You being the workplace essentially means that your workplace travels with you in a medium of your choice, at respecting your privacy, your work-life balance, and so on, and is able to enable you to be productive regardless of wherever you are. You could be a frontline employee, you could be an employee working remotely, or you could be an employee working in an office, and so on. So you still have access to all of your documents in a secure way. You have access to computing. You have access to the security tools, you have access to collaboration tools, and so on, regardless of device, regardless of where you are, right? So this is essentially number one, right? The second larger trend that I see is that the technology investments in frontline employee technology is drastically increasing, and I see this across industries. The pandemic has actually sort of demonstrated the criticality of your frontline workforce. Most IT and technology investments in the last couple of decades have largely been focused on the knowledge worker aspect of the workplace. Frontline workers have always been underserved. And so frontline technology, especially as we head towards future organizations where most of your employees who are on site will be frontline, and they will be supported virtually by an extended remote kind of a workplace, will require the frontline employees to have access to technology that allows them to collaborate, that allows them to share knowledge, that allows them to make decisions and access expertise on the go, right? So this is obviously number two. And the third larger trend, and I don't want to include it as a technology-centric trend, but this is historically, the way we've managed workplaces is that there was an IT aspect of it, the desktops, the laptops, the data center, the communication tools, the routers and the telephony and so on, the conference rooms and so on. Then you had the administrative facilities, the climate control, the cooling, the building facilities, the access control, the physical security, and those aspects of it. And you obviously had HR and financial systems and that aspect of the workplace stack, if you think about it, right? Each of these was necessarily a silo because they all worked on different kinds of technologies at different levels of maturity. Some were not connected to each other, and so on, right? What's happening now is that they're all converging on the cloud, right? So as your HR, administration, and IT services converge on the cloud, companies are thinking fundamentally differently about IT services, about the workplace essentially now being a single cloud stack that I can think in terms of an agile DevOps culture. Right? So I can think more in terms of having user stories that cut across these, and I'm able to then drive changes, small incremental changes that are high impact across the administration, finance, and the IT services stack, as opposed to thinking of these as very siloed segments of the workplace. Right? So these are the three kinds of broad changes that I see, trends that I see. So the second question on how can technology support the workforce of the future, what's coming after, video chat, which is essentially what we're doing now, and cloud-based productivity tools, and so on, right? So there are, I think I see this as 2 or 3 waves. I think the first wave is essentially going to be the ability for your video chat and this collaboration canvas to actually become the canvas of employee experience, meaning that your other IT systems, your HR systems, your ERP systems will all start to come into your collaboration canvas. That I think is the immediate, very short-term sort of trend that I see as you look to create workplace experiences that are low friction and high productivity. So that's clearly number one, right? The next step of this is what you add to this is as AI matures and cognitive capabilities mature, you're going to add AI that will augment things like knowledge management, the ability to enable better, more seamless collaboration, to measure behaviors, to locate expertise, to locate content, to also provide automated do-it-yourself support, right? So I think the second wave literally will be the rise of AI in its ability to sit on top, plug into your collaboration ecosystem and all of your business applications and be able to do this, right? And the third wave is what I see as the rise of more immersive collaboration technologies such as augmented and virtual reality, right? As someone who is a very, very regular gamer on virtual reality headsets, I can tell you that the consumer grade technology is already there. And it's only a matter of time before it becomes mainstream. To be honest, I think amongst industries like energy, resources, mining, travel, manufacturing and so on, the use of advanced virtual reality headsets is already underway. Right now, the price point is still expensive, but to really make it to the wider enterprise where one of us could just put on a light VR headset and have a more immersive, rich virtual meeting is not too far away. And I think that's basically the next step. And clearly the rise of augmented reality technologies for frontline workforce to make their jobs a lot more easier to train, easier to sort of continuously improve, and also scale their capacity with expertise remotely using information that you can then pipe in front of their eyes is going to be very, very crucial as we go forward, right? So the third question around what's the future of collaboration itself? In my opinion, the future of collaboration is fundamentally a transformation of culture to what we call working out loud. Right. So when we were working only in physical offices, collaboration was implicit, and we naturally worked out loud because we knew what others were doing. We had conversations with them at the water cooler. We had meetings where we had face-to-face. We shared body language cues and so on. So a lot of ambient awareness was created in the physical workplace, which we took for granted. As we move to a permanent hybrid way of working, your remote workforce now needs to deliberately work out loud, continuously share what they're doing in order to create the same kinds of serendipitous exchanges that were natural in the physical workplace, if you will. And I think technology will need to broker those serendipitous exchanges in the digital way of working, in the virtual way of working. And I think human resources and other departments will need to change the nature of employee engagement to be more continuous, to be more real time, to share more information with employees, to arm them with more data, and also use what we call a digital quantified self as a way of measuring what you're productive about and what you're not productive about, and so on, right? So this is the change in collaboration culture itself that I see as the future in terms of a near-term change in culture in the workplace. So the next question about what is the definition of a smart work? How do you define smart work in the post-COVID era? So clearly, I think when you think about the physical workplace and the 100-year history that it has since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, there are clearly some advantages and disadvantages. And I think the fact that most companies have been successful at adapting to remote work essentially means that there were problems in the physical way of work. So to really simplify this in a very dead simple way, I think the in-person workplace was great for co-located collaboration, and it was not so great for a spectrum of individual productivity. Offices were great for certain kinds of productivity, but not for all kinds of productivity. They also were not flexible. They were very urban-centric, and therefore talent naturally was not very diverse in the physical workplace. Now, what we've learned in the 1 year is that if you have a strategy where you can hire anywhere and work remotely and work in a hybrid model, it essentially means that you can tap into the human cloud, borderless talent. The idea that you can build teams with the best talent anywhere in the world, right? So therefore, naturally means that you have an opportunity to create more diverse teams. And again, research has proven that more diverse teams are actually more successful in most things. They're more innovative. They deal with crises better because they have a wider range of shared experiences, diversity of experiences and so on, right? And also you have an opportunity to offer flexible ways of working, right? So in the office, everybody had to come in the morning and leave in the evening. In a remote work, presenteeism is not what defines work, it's outcomes, right? So there may be people who are immensely productive, in the middle of the night and they finish some work, but they're actually not available during the day. And again, when you think about in many parts of the world, having a flexible remote way of working also enables a greater number of women employees to continue to contribute and grow into leadership positions, as they don't have to take a break sometimes for family and so on, right? So this is clearly a huge opportunity. And we're also seeing an opportunity to de-urbanize a lot of work. If many of your employees can work from wherever they are, they don't need to come into cities and essentially live in expensive, high-cost, very small, houses in cities like San Francisco or in Paris or London and so on. This essentially means that you have an opportunity to truly create a new kind of organization. And what that actually means is that the idea of smart work in this new world, and I'll simplify it this way. So historically, if you have to manage a project, you needed to define a plan, which therefore meant you needed to know what tasks you have to complete. You needed to know what skills you needed, and therefore look at your limited pool of talent that you have. You needed to figure out how long it's going to take. You needed to figure out how you're going to divide it across time zones, especially if you're a global organization, and so on, right? So, but in the new world, you'll add one more variable, which is this idea of essentially adding co-location as a factor. What it means is that the new way of smart work is not only figuring out what to do, figuring out the MVP in an agile manner, finding out skills in a globally distributed talent pool. And once you have a distributed talent pool, your way of thinking about time zones fundamentally changes. But what it also means is that you need to decide when are you most productive in co-locating, and when are you most productive when working remotely, which means that a lot of new thinking will have to come in terms of figuring out that this is a project that during the brainstorming and creative phase, I need to bring people together locally as much as possible, right? Because face-to-face collaboration is very, very useful, and that's what we've learned from the physical workplace. But where I need individuals to be collaborative or individuals to be productive, individually productive, I'm better off giving them their space, going back to their, wherever they work remotely, and be able to work at their own styles, in their own flexible way to deliver what is required in a meaningful way, right? So smart work in the sense of the future is fundamentally going to be the ability to successfully navigate hybrid organizations and hybrid teams, and being flexible about when you're going to co-locate and when you're going to be remote. And the companies that kind of crack that will significantly increase their throughput compared to companies that either do only in-person or only remote kind of collaboration. I think ultimately hybrid is indeed the future, right? And so to the last question, and this is often a question I get asked by a lot of CTOs and also chief operating officers and research officers in many organizations, about how you can drive creativity in a remote or a hybrid kind of a work environment, right? Creativity and innovation. And we've always understood innovation as emerging from ideas bubbling together and people being able to brainstorm and whiteboard in a live setting and so on, right? So I think, as I said, many of the ingredients that I spoke about in previous questions are all important, right? Ultimately, for you to have a culture of creativity and innovation in a remote work environment, you need what I call engineered serendipity. So let me explain what engineered serendipity means. Serendipity naturally happens in the physical workplace, right? People who are innovative and people who are networkers often get together, and ideas from one place percolate into another person via these people who are good networkers, and that's how innovation actually tends to happen, right? So in a remote world, you have to do this deliberately because we're all separate, right? So you have to create mechanisms by which people discover each other, ideas discover each other, problems discover each other more deliberately, right? And this therefore requires the other thing that I call digital nudging. Digital nudging is the use of technology to target a useful, actionable piece of information to an individual, highly personalized. And the nudging could actually be related to security compliance or wellness, or to do with anything basic, right? Fill your timesheet and so on. But the nudging could also be related to innovation, right? So if someone has a great idea that you believe this needs to be seen by someone here, you could ultimately use technology and AI and big data to target information selectively to people, to nudge them to be more innovative and collaborative, right? Ultimately, creativity comes from visibility to problems, right? So the more visibility and ambient awareness you create, You create more opportunities for people to be creative. The second thing is that creativity only comes when there are constraints, and people should know what those constraints are, right? And the third thing is that you should have a culture where your employees are empowered, right, and encouraged, right? Meaning that if I have visibility to problems and I come up with a solution, what are my incentives to take it forward, right? What are the support structures where I can find fellow employees, come together, solve a problem together, and then take it to the next level, get visibility, get funding, and so on. So the structures of innovation are always important. So the way I would say it, if you have a rich and vibrant creativity and innovation culture in your organization, it's then therefore matter of adapting that to the digital mechanism, doing a few things more deliberately so that the culture still stays vibrant, right? You can't fix a culture problem by simply using technology and collaboration and video chat and webinars and idea generation platforms and voting platforms and so on. That will not fix the problem. You still need to fix the culture, but it has to do with creatively being able to adapt it, using the technology that you have today, using the attention span challenges that we have, and the fact that we have a work-life balance that straddles home and work and so on, and the fact that we're not seeing face-to-face, and make the best out of those limitations to get innovation, the innovation engine going. As someone once said, innovation is the ability to turn invention to invoices, and that has to be the focus of the organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krish, for sharing your thoughts with us. And now let's take a look at global trends that are shaping the new normal and show us how business leaders all around the world think about the new and current challenges. I am delighted to welcome Róbert Bencze, People and Organizations Director at PwC, AmCham board member. Róbert, what do your studies show to us?
Good morning. It is my pleasure to have some introductory ideas on the Competitive Workforce Conference. As a practicing leader and a practicing consultant, I had very interesting experiences and, let's say, thoughtful experiences in the last couple of months, I would say 1.5 years, about how the new situation can have an effect on our workforce, on our company operation. In PwC, we usually use a lot of surveys just to tap and understand what is happening on the market with companies and organizations. And today, I have brought a couple of ideas, just thought-provoking ideas, to make you think about how the last 18 months affected your organization, the workforce, the motivation of your people, and your operation. I'm going to share with you results and outcomes of 2 surveys. Every year in Hungary for 10 years, we ask CEOs about how they think on the future, the forthcoming business year. And of course, this year as well, we had this survey. In Hungary, we had more than 240 CEOs sharing their ideas. And globally, it is 1,779 CEOs participated. And I'm going to share with you about the expectations and the future ideas, how they see the business, which is the context around how we're heading to the future after this pandemic, hopefully past-pandemic situation. The other survey that I'm going to share with you, the outcomes, is the so-called Hopes and Fears survey. Globally, we have been asking more than 30,000 people, workers, employees, leaders in different sectors, in different countries, in 19 countries exactly, including CE, about the expectations after this situation that we have been facing. What about the CEOs? If I just try to look at the context about the expectations of the future, what you can see on the slide is that by 2021, even in Hungary and globally, the majority of the leaders are expecting growth. We have heard many examples about this rebound in the economy, the expectations, but I think looking at this picture, it's very clear that in Hungary and globally, there's a positive expectation about the future. Also, if we asked what kind of, let's say, concerns they have that can just affect their business, I think there's no surprise that on the top we see the pandemic. I think 1 year ago or 2 years ago, maybe there was no answer like that at all. But now this is one of the most important fear or concern about the future. On the left-hand side, you can see the Hungarian CEO answers. On the right-hand side, you can see the global ones. So the pandemic, let's say, threat is on the top. But we talk about the workforce today and competitive workforce, then on the second place, you see still what we have seen in the last couple of years as well, that one of the major concerns is the availability of key skills. It didn't change, at least in Hungary. What else? If we talk about the competitive workforce, more than 50% of the companies in Hungary are expecting growth in the headcounts, which is also and always a positive sign of, let's say, the competitive workforce we can see ahead of us. If we focus only on the concern and questions around the workforce itself, we have been asking CEOs what aspects of the workforce strategy will be in focus in the next year. Then I think it's a very interesting thing what you see on the top, which is the workplace culture and behavior. I think we have many discussions in my company with clients as well, that many things have changed. How we communicate, how we motivate, how we cooperate. These are all important aspects of culture. Of course, later in this morning, we will have lots of possibilities to share ideas how we can see this kind of culture change in the companies. Of course, number 2 is productivity and automation. I think we have heard many examples in the first introductory speech about the technology and digitalization. I think this is also on the top. And finally, from the CEO survey, just a personal note, because we have been asking CEOs what they miss personally about, let's say, the pre-COVID era, and 75% of them claim that the personal relationships they can form with colleagues, of course, them and of course within the different groups, then employee motivation is also in the top, traveling, what you see, and creating opportunities for ad hoc meetings. So I think this kind of personal touch is in the air for many months now, and I think CEOs are also claiming that this is what they're missing. Turning into how to serve the growth, I think we just have to look back a little bit. Last March, when this whole pandemic situation started, then I think everybody found themselves in a kind of a shocking situation. Somehow they have to mobilize the organization, getting into the habit of the new, let's say, communication patterns, working patterns. Then somewhere around last summer, the operation started to stabilize. And now we are at the point, and I think this is why we are talking about this topic, when somehow we have to turn these kind of learnings, what we have seen, into the advantage of the organization. And as I mentioned, CEOs are expecting growth. Let's see how. Let's see how they can turn this into a successful operation. From the hopes and fears survey, we have been detected 5 major areas that is impacted mainly by the current situation for the future operation of the organizations. One is the digitalization and upskilling. The situation needs absolutely new skills and approaches. Second is the company culture. I have mentioned it before, that the way of cooperation, the trust, the transparency are absolutely in the focus now in the new operation. The organizational structure, we have seen disappearing leadership levels in different organizations. The reward and compensation system, because there are no new needs, this should be addressed by new compensation system, and the work organization, which is about hybrid working, working from home, many things like that. I think many of us are hit by the question that how many days in the office? And here you see a couple of answers that before and after. And what you see easily is that even many people are thinking about working 5 days from home, but most of the people, 2-3 days are expected working from home, and of course 2-3 days returning to the office. Effectiveness. I think this is a really interesting, let's say, graph for me, because if we ask employees and employers about the effectiveness of the current, let's say, situation, more employers saying that the new situation is more effective than the employees. I think this is saying a lot about maybe the future expectations, how companies would like to organize the work. Another question about the needs of employees, again, about the number of office days. What is interesting on this is that irrespective the age group, irrespective, let's say, the travel time, maybe you can see some small differences, but it seems that looking at the population, the same, let's say, percentage of the people are heading to the office every day, or 2 or 3 days, or maybe working only from home. What about the office? Because I think many aspects we can have, and we have heard many examples about companies changing their office strategy. Just a couple of examples, what kind of answers we have seen. Many companies, 61%, claim that they're trying to get the office space into a prime location. 58% claim that they're just trying to, let's say, go out into suburbs. So I think these kind of answers are changing. But what is more interesting is that we have heard many examples from clients reducing the office space. But this is surprising that many companies, 24%, are extending the office space with 5-15%, 18%, 14% with even more. Why? Because of the new role of the office, the new role of the public areas within the office will need a bigger space. Corporate culture. I have mentioned a couple of communication examples around that, but these are the major 3 topics what the company culture, let's say, will be addressing. The communication, the changing leadership roles, because the new operation will require new approaches, new skills from leaders in the hybrid working, in the distance working, and the well-being. The well-being, which is about getting together, having the motivation, having the commitment from employees. We can mention that regarding the company culture, many organizations are trying to introduce actions, tools for virtual collaboration, redesigning the office space, new kind of conference rooms, and so on and so on. These are the actions that can follow right after that. So summarizing, the new situation will bring up 3 major focus areas as a challenge for all the organizations. One is the new kind of leadership, how leaders will behave, motivate, engage, and lead the organization. Second, the employee engagement, how we will boost and enhance employee engagement in the new distant working or office space. And then how the corporation will adjust this operation in systems, approaches, rewards, and office spaces. These 3 major areas will be discussed today in 3 different groups. And I hope that all the examples that you will hear from the discussions will give you lots of ideas on how to react in this new situation. Thank you.
And now the time has come for our first panel, where we are going to look at how COVID-19 and the responses given to new challenges change the way we view leadership. Let me very warmly welcome our panelists on stage. Bencze, Head of Marketing and Government Relations at Tata Consultancy Services. Balázs Gábor, Plant Manager at Arconic-Köfém Mill Products Hungary. Péter Szlávik, Director of External Affairs, Philip Morris International, and István Katona, Board Member at AmCham, the moderator of the discussion.
Thank you, Iris. Before we jump into this very interesting topic, why leadership is important, or why do we believe that we need to somehow redefine the leadership for the future, and if yes, how? Let me just ask around the speakers today that why do you believe it's important to be here in this conference, and more importantly, being as a panelist in this discussion? Edith, as ladies always first, would you mind to start?
Well, I'm excited to be here, even in a hybrid mode, and I truly believe in teamwork and the power of community. And the playbook is never a one-man show. And I believe that the resilience playbook of AmCham will be contributed by all the members, and it will be a really powerful document for the future. Balázs?
Yeah, I'm here for the first time. I'm relatively new in the management position, I mean, as a plant manager. But for me, that's going to be a great experience to talk to some of the people who are very, very experienced in areas. I think during the last years, the last 2 years, we were a little bit, at least I felt, a little bit left alone. And I'm very open to, first of all, get a lot of information of how these leadership things are changing, and also maybe I can contribute also to this discussion from the manufacturing side. So that's the way I see it.
Thank you, Balázs. Peter, in the online area. Peter, we can't hear you. You are on mute.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad to be here. That's the magic of the online show and the home office. So we have experienced a very hard situation in the past year, just from the sudden. And it is a crisis. It was close to a crisis situation, but a crisis is always an opportunity. And we cannot afford the luxury to lose the opportunity of learning from a crisis and to use the learnings after the crisis as well. So this is a good discussion, I assume, which is in front of us, to go through all those opportunities that we can use when we come back to normal. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And I fully agree with you that many studies are proving that those companies who were able to learn from their mistakes or even experiences in difficult circumstances like crisis, economic crisis, they were also able to build back the business faster than the others, as you said, Peter, so changing and transferring the experiences to competitive advantages. But what about the leaders? What about us? So do you think there are something what we learned already in the last 12, 14 months and would be good to bring into the new normal, into the future? Edith, what do you think?
Well, there is no old normal. There is no new normal. It is never normal. So I think we should adapt to this very situation. And definitely we will be as competitive as quickly we can adapt to the new circumstances. And surprisingly, despite the fact that it was a really difficult year for all of us, business services sector seems to be very, very resilient and seem to be surviving and catching up fast. At TCS, how we responded to this new situation, we set up two main strategic goals. One is the transformation and digitalization, transforming ourselves personally and the company as well from the delivery center type of activities into the technology center. Because we learned in the past year that even for personal activities, we use more and more technology, even to listen to music or order whatever we had to order during home office. But we should use technology in our business life as well. And the other connecting thing is with this transformation is the contextual knowledge. Because it's not enough to use technology, because without contextual knowledge, it is only a tool. And From this, we really should transform ourselves for the learning organization as well, from individuals who aspire to be more active and more capable in the new technologies. And that will create more values and ultimately bigger business results. And I don't mean that from now on everyone in the service centers need to be IT or coder or programmer, but definitely has to use more and more technology to create more value and be more successful. So this is my view on this. Transform and learn.
Well, I'm from the manufacturing sector. We had a very, very interesting and very difficult year going down with production and then going up with production. And what we learned, and I think not only me, but also the whole organization, is the importance of flexibility and leadership. Leadership, I mean, we have to, at least myself, that was a lot of learning because I'm a very democratic leader. But when we had a crisis situation, I had to learn how to switch very quickly to a little bit more autocratic, because when there's a crisis, you cannot use always the democratic tools. When there's a problem to solve quickly, you have to listen to everybody and make very quick decisions. There's not always place and time for making all democratic decisions. So that was a huge learning for us in the organization. The other thing I learned, and we learned, I think, is the importance of communication. Communication with people, all levels of the organization, to make people understand why we are doing this in order to not to lose the trust. For us, or for me, that was the biggest learning of the last 2 years. And I think that's going to be taken over for the next period. I don't think we are going to change because these things, these values were going to stay with us.
Thank you very much. And let me have a little bit provocative question, because I think we know that what do we want to bring forward with us. But is it something what we implemented because we didn't have too much experience in the past? But we believe that after a year or more than a year, we need to stop and not continue in the future?
Well, for me, that was always a learning. I cannot really mention something that was not good in the past. I think the emphasis was going on different things. We are emphasizing more certain things and less others, but I don't think we should trash anything. That's my feeling, but maybe the others have different views.
Well, just to add a couple of thoughts to this, that I'm not sharing that stop anything, but build on what we realized in these crazy times that it was useful. For example, we should be more open. We should be more focusing on work-time balance. And third, which I think is very, very important, that we should be more diverse and rely on these values. Because just imagine, when we were digitally headhunting and getting people from the face, from even the video interviews, we were not aware of whether it is disabled, handicapped, or small or big or whatever, but it was a value, the people. And actually the value of the company ultimately is the people who are working for them. So that is our 3 learning, that not forget something, but build on, which we found that it is working and create more value.
Thank you. And flexibility, home office was mentioned several times already. And I think most of the companies, especially in the shared service sector, were able to use the advantage of technology and working for more than a year in a hybrid mode, mostly from home, partially from the office. But what about the companies who have manufacturing side? So Balázs, for example, how did you live? What kind of experience do you have, what you can share with us? Were you able, for example, also to somehow implement this hybrid mode also in your sector?
Yes, in manufacturing, this is a production factory I'm working for. So, and we decided not to stop. We could not stop the production. So several companies were able to stop for several weeks. We were not able to do that. Also, we were supplying pharmaceutical industry, so we were not able to stop. So we had to do everything during the operation. So that was a difficult time. And of course, we said, okay, all the administration as much as possible, should go to home office. That's good, that's fine. The problem is that after a certain time, we realize that, yeah, the guys on the shop floor are still working. They are there. And we should not have the feeling, or they must have the feeling that, you know, the captain is abandoning the ship when there's a problem. That's not possible. So we said, okay, we have to go back. We have to figure out smartly how we go back, even the administration, not fully, not everybody. We implemented different ships with different structures. And we left home office as an option. But for many people, that was not an option to work in home office because they are linked to production and maintenance, to all these activities. And I think that's very important. What I felt also that some of the projects were going down, slowing down in this hybrid mode. So we have to figure out that beside the fact that people are partly home, I mean the administration, the engineers, these projects, these activities has to go on. And again, this is also about people. Some people were able to do that very quickly. Other people, they were a little bit slow. I have two kids. One is able to adapt to the school situation very quickly. The other is not, because he's more an interactive person. So I think that's also something we had to learn, that the hybrid mode is working, but we have to take care about the people also. Some people it's working very well, others not, and we have to find the right balances. So it was a very interesting situation in manufacturing.
Fully agree. And not just use this advantage of technology. Let's hear what Peter is thinking about this question.
Yes, thank you so much. If I may join, being a company that was able to go to home office in a very short time, but at the other side, we have the warehouse that had to keep operating even during the toughest situation. And it was really something which was an important communication part that unified the whole community, that we had the front line in the warehouse, people who we were looking at with great respect and with great support, same as people were looking at healthcare professionals, people who were sitting in their homes safe, and looking at healthcare professionals who are working for them, and we were supporting them and looking with great respect on their work and on their dedication. So it was really something that partly divided, but even more unified the whole team for survival and for achievement. So this was again a very interesting learning for us.
Thank you very much for sharing this. And as Edith mentioned already, there is no new normal, there is no old new normal, but I think we can agree that we definitely will not go back where we were a year ago, back in March 2020. Something new will come. And many people are saying that maybe we'll need to provide more flexibility, maybe we need less office space than before. But what about the leaders and the leadership? What kind of leadership we need in the future? What kind of competencies, skill set we need in the future? So, Peter, how do you see this question?
Yes, thank you. I think that the most important is respect. So when you are a leader, you should respect your colleagues, your consumers, and the job that you are doing. You have to have a mission and dedication, and really having clear goals. In old ages, even in the 80s, we had leaders who were just looking at the surface. If people were there, if they were in there at their working place for 8 hours, spending the time in front of their desk and maybe typing on their computer. But we all know that it is just the surface. So it was a great learning for us to look behind. And when someone is working at home office, you need a very different leadership approach. It is not anymore the control. It is not anymore looking after the colleagues, but it is much more the motivation, the clear goals, clear achievement, and dedication to what you are doing. It's again a bit more personal at the same time, a bit more human at the same time. So it is partly dividing, but on the other side, it's really unifying, getting closer people than earlier. So you are really part of the same life that you are doing, working for the same goals. And it's not anymore the presence, which is valuable, but it is much more the achievement that is valuable. And I think it is a big competitive advantage and a big potential to keep that approach. Just one example, most of the people are just traveling up to 2 hours a day to their office place and back to home. It is approximately 25% of their time on a daily basis, 25% of their 8 hours at work, if it is just that. There is a potential with any tools, and home office could be a tool for that, to use a 25% potential of improvement. That's really something that we have to count on. And on the other side, it was not coming from nothing, because yes, we had the shared service centers which give us the learnings that we can work very well with colleagues who are not sitting at the back of the corridor, who are maybe sitting in another country. And it works very well. It's really have a different way of working, but it's much more effective many times. And if these colleagues are not sitting at the back of the corridors, but maybe in Poland, maybe in Krakow, it's really not really differs if they are sitting in an office building in Poland, or if they are sitting in their home in Poland, or they are sitting in their home at Szombathely. And for a company like Philip Morris, it's really important that we are a family-friendly company. We are an equal salary company, a family-friendly company, a company that really takes care of the well-being of our colleagues. And these opportunities really makes well-being on a higher level. And if we can organize the work in a proper way, and if we have clear goals and clear mission statements and clear achievements to reach, and our colleagues are dedicated, and we are really personal and looking after to support them, then it really improves also those qualities that were already there. So I believe that it is a potential of improvement also on the human side, also on the potential and the achievement side, and also on the costs side, which is again very important. So those who can learn from that situation, this situation was forcing us to learn fast. But those companies who could learn and who were resilient enough, those could really have a competitive advantage in the future, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you.
I like this, I believe, because I talked a lot about transformation. We at TCS, we even transformed our brand positioning to the new normal or the new situation. And we used that building on beliefs. Of course, it is not the value, because our corporate values are same leading us and that giving the base for our operation. But building on beliefs, it is a purpose-led management, and purpose-led organization would be more resilient and easier to adapt to new challenges. And we truly believe that the only partnership can create values, and building on beliefs has a meaning for both associates, both stakeholders, and both the business. So if we let the colleagues do a long-term investment in their careers, they can aim for higher, they could work with us, create more values, bigger satisfaction for the companies we serve, and ultimately, beyond business, we can achieve that technology is the only future. And this is why we, in all levels, highlighting the management skills as well, building on beliefs, driving us for the future, and this is what we believe that makes us future ready.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing this thought with us. I think we could continue this discussion for an hour, but unfortunately time is up. So thank you very much. Thank you, Edith, Balázs, and Péter for being us today and also being part of this panel. And now let's see what other participants of the conference is thinking about these challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing your thoughts with us. And now, as promised, you will have the opportunity to discuss your thoughts with your fellow members. And it is the interactive part where you are going to be redirected to breakout rooms. Soon, a white button will pop up with the word breakout, so please click on that. Alternatively, you can use the right up corner menu point and select breakout. Please allow the platform to use your cameras and microphone. The session will start with 15 minutes, and it is going to end automatically, which is going to be followed by a 5-minute break. We are going to expect you here afterwards. Thank you, and enjoy the discussion. During the quarantine, all of us went through up and downs, and we experienced stress in many forms. As we now go back to the office and start our new way of working, the biggest challenge and question for leaders is how to engage and motivate their employees. Our panelists are going to discuss this very important question in the next couple of minutes. Let me introduce them to you. Máté Fazekas, Head of Corporate, Public Affairs and Brand at British Telecommunications. Veronika Spanarova, Managing Director and Country Head for Hungary at Citi. Melinda Topolcsik, President, Managing Director and Plant Manager at Bridgestone Tatabánya Termelő Kft. And an AmCham board member. And the panel is going to be moderated by Dr. Róbert Dobai, Competitive Workforce Policy Task Force Lead at AmCham.
Iris, thank you so much. And the first question that I thought of would be, do you see new challenges in motivating employees when returning to the offices or returning to hybrid mode? And I don't know, maybe Veronika, what is your opinion about it?
Thank you. It is a very interesting and important question nowadays. And I firmly believe that the key is really to have the right balance between the flexibility on one hand and the engagement and the sense of belonging on the other side. When we are going back to the hybrid or more in-person mode of working. If I can just use our example, I work for Citi here in Hungary. We have been here for 36 years. And have grown up to 2,500 employees over the years. So we have been used to having large crowds of people in the office every day. Then the situation changed. We had to transform to up to 95% of the people working from home. And now we are going back to the hybrid mode. And this will be also our way forward, that majority of our employees will be working in the hybrid or a flexible mode. We are very much looking to give, on one hand, enough flexibility, but on the other hand, to keep the office as the place for the teamwork, for the engagement, and for really the sense of belonging. So we will be making sure that the teams are together and they can take advantage of the in-person conversations which we have been used to before.
Thank you so much. And Melinda, is it different in a plant like Bridgestone?
Well, obviously, yeah, it's much different because basically to motivate the people for us was really in the beginning when everybody went to home office, but being a manufacturing company, we had to be there. So we had to basically motivate the people and make them trust us. We put all the necessary countermeasures to feel them safe so they can come to work every single day. So therefore, and I think it's very similar no matter if you are home officing or you need to motivate the people to come to the plan is the communication. What we experience, we did from the beginning and constantly now on, the constant, honest, communication towards the people, what's about the plans, and to feel them safe and understand how the situation is changing, because it's changed constantly.
Okay, thank you. And what is at BT?
I can connect to both ladies for sure, because trust is really important. We have more than 2,500 people here at BT in Hungary, and these guys are working in home office for more than 1 year. Actually, it was quite easy to send them into home office working. On the other hand, we see the challenges that coming back will be much more difficult than sending them to home office into the safety areas. I think it's really important to ensure that the environment is safe. Building trust is helping to motivate them for coming back. On the other hand, transparent communication is very important to make sure that they know what's happening, how it will happen in the future. And I think people management is also really important to be connected with the colleagues. Team managers should have a clear communication towards to their colleagues, and I think their role is very important to motivate them in coming back to the offices.
Right. And I was just come back to what Veronika said, that, I don't know, Melinda, that what impact do you see the way the work changed and put on sense on belonging, sense of belonging? So how do you see this change? I mean, is it easier for people or for your employees to connect to you, or I mean, connect to the rest of the organization, or is it a little different than it was before?
Well, what we are doing in Bridgestone to having, more than 1,000 people, it's very important from the beginning to create and maintain the environment when the people feel valued and listened and appreciated. And so basically for our peoples, we have a lot of on and offline platform where they can, share their thoughts and then give their opinion. We are asking them on many different reasons. For example, during the pandemic, they were able to give their opinion which local company we should, support with certain PPEs, and we get them involved with the family as well. So basically, that's what is important for them, and not just the social, basically belongingness, but also I can, say it's very important to give them stability and give them not just in financial, but also, stability and development for themselves and the company. And it's a very good example, during the pandemic to having the fact we were able to investment and buying new machine. So therefore they able to see and get the better connection and the belongingness with the company.
Veronika, you also mentioned some words about this belonging. How do you sense that it's changed? Does it change at all in your company?
Well, I think that, or what I see is that, sense of belonging is part of the corporate culture of every company. I believe that we all want that our employees feel sense of belonging. They feel attached to the company. They feel proud of working for our companies, right? And this is part of the top priorities of our firm, and I'm sure of every firm on the market. It has changed. What I could see in the last 12 months, we had to find new ways of keep that sense of belonging in the virtual or the online environment, which we have been able to do due to technology, modern communication. What I also see is that this past more or less 12 months have really got us also to appreciate the personal contacts, which we took for granted before. And this is something which we see that people are looking forward to be able to be in person, to meet in person again, and to have that to have that teamwork and the discussions which we have been used to before.
Okay. Do any one of you can share one or the other tip or trick or idea that you have tried and it looks that it works to improve or get back the sense of belonging?
I think from employer branding perspective, we did a lot of things at BT, because we also realized that this kind of disconnection from the company is quite a reality, to be honest, in this virtual life. We have Y and Z generation colleagues mainly. The average age is 31 years. They are quite young. And for them, it's really important to have a real social life inside of a company. And doing it in a virtual way is a quite big challenge, because on virtual events, probably you can have individual contributors, individual programs, which can help you to connect to the company brand. On the other hand, you need team collaboration, where you have to organize events where teams can work together or collaborate and doing some fun stuff as well. And this kind of fun stuff helps a lot. For example, organizing quiz nights for them in a virtual life, or organizing a virtual well-being week where they can participate on a lot of different activities and examinations as well. So these kind of things can help to connect to the company, help to connect to the company values as well. And this way we can ensure that they have some kind of a sense of belonging to the company brand through this pandemic situation as well.
Yeah. Melinda, you have been in this hybrid mode in the past, as far as I presume. So how is it at your side?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I wanted to say, yeah, it's very important to the people. They can belong if they can, basically understand and having the same values as the company has. And then for Bridgestone, our biggest one is serving society with superior quality, which we are meaning is not just on the product, but also, how the people are behaving each other to the customers, towards the community. And on those, uncertain period, what we went through with the pandemic, this was really important to reassure and communicate them constantly and make those activities the walk the talk, so they were easily connect to what the Bridgestone real values are, especially in these tough times.
Okay.
And I add to that, if I may, that
sure.
especially, what the special focus, one of the areas of the special focus were the new colleagues who have joined our company and who have joined all the companies during the last 12 months. So this is, I believe that this is a group of colleagues where the sense of belonging and sense of being part of the company. Making sure that they feel welcome and that they feel very good about joining the new company.
Thank you so much. Let's just put our focus a little bit to the future. I mean, you as employers, do you have plans to assist your employees more in preparing for the future, like I don't know, saving plans, well-being, health issues? I mean, do you plan to support them in these areas as well? I don't know, Melinda?
Yeah, sure. Can start. Well, it's even before the pandemic, Bridgestone put a lot of effort on not just employing branding, but also basically the values of what we are giving to our people, to focusing to live a very active life, because we strongly believe that they need to be focusing on the physical and mental health, and especially because most of our people working 12-hour continuous shift. So we want to make sure when they are off, they are recharging their batteries and they're getting the active, basically leisure activities. So, and then, being not just family-friendly workplace, we also bicycle-friendly workplace. So we are very much promoting towards our employees to coming to work with bike, which is really important because we strongly believe that, they need to have that work-life balance. And then actually, Veronika mentioned about the new people. And because of that, we also issued in the last year a complete brochure, which is contained what our firm giving financial and non-financial basically help and support to the peoples. And then the most important one, I think, which is of course included, insurance, family day, flexible workplace, lot of other things. But the one, and I think the most important, what we introduced in the last year, it's called You Can Count on Us. It's basically a free professional aid, which is regarding legal, financial, and mental health issues. If the people have it. So basically what it means, our colleagues and even the family member, they can contact anytime our professionals if they have those type of issues what they cannot resolve, of course anonymously. And then that's helping them a lot, because it was a huge pressure. And again, even if they had to work from the factory or from the supporting department who were allowed to work from home as well, I think it's very important to, again, the people feel appreciated and valued. So we give them all the support what they need to especially go through the tough period.
Okay. Máté, I don't know, how is it in BT's case?
We already had private health insurance, well-being related extra benefits for our colleagues, and we organize a lot of events for them. We are family-friendly workplace. We have stock options as well, and a lot of other stuff. But I think this pandemic revealed a couple of things which are much more important than others. For example, being an empathic employer is really important to feel what our people need. And sometimes they do not need health insurance, probably they need some advice in financial stuff. And therefore we have an employee assistance program which you can call anytime, and you can talk with lawyers, financial advisors, health professionals in different areas according to your needs. what you find useful in that time as well. So basically, we'll continue these programs. On the other hand, this hybrid working model, which will be probably the new way of working in each company's, I mean, basically in this business services sector for sure, we reveal some gaps in order to fulfill these needs, because some people will be in the office and some of them will be at home. So in case you are doing something in the office, well-being programs, how can you bring into the home simultaneously? So this is, I think, a real challenge, what we have to solve in order to make sure that everybody gets the same treatment and same opportunities or events, what the company can offer for them for sure.
Wow. Veronika, I mean, how is it in Citi's case? I assume that you previously also had some plans. Maybe they changed, or you added some special things to it?
I think we adapted some of the plans, and I very much second and agree with what Melinda and Máté were saying before. I believe it's important to show the support on several fronts. One is the professional front. If we are talking about the hybrid model, are our employees, our colleagues well equipped to work from home? Do they have the equipment? Do they have the safe connections so that they can work safely and efficiently from home? This is on one front. We shouldn't be forgetting the professional development, right? And I think that this last year showed us many new options how to do online trainings and how to do the professional development. Also in the hybrid or let's say online mode, which makes it in a way more efficient even. And then big area for us also is the well-being, which was very much accented. So I'm glad to hear we also have the employee assistance program for our employees and their families, medical insurance, and we also have 9 diversity networks, which are actually a cornerstone of one hand the diversity and providing many kind of social networking activities, which which help also our colleagues to relax in their free time, to be together when the time allows. Of course, they had to go to the virtual mode, but very much looking forward to be able to be together after working hours as well.
Thank you so much. I was just wondering that we have a little time, and I have a kind of a provocative question, but it was it was because you said that what I see that there are many initiatives that you and your company has started before, but what is the one thing that keeps you up at night concerning the future work? What is the number one dilemma that you think you have to solve? Either one of you can answer it.
If I can start, I would maybe reinforce what I said in the beginning. Really, we have to focus on going forward, right? Finding the right balance between giving our colleagues, giving our people, sufficient flexibility, which goes together with their work-life balance, and on the other hand, really to keep our teams together so that people are engaged, so that they are part of the company, part of what is going on, and part of that sense of belonging that we discussed. Finding that right balance is something which is very much centerpiece of the focus.
Thank you. Máté, you started to...
Yeah, something similar came into my mind, keeping the right balance between efficiency, on the other hand, giving something which is helping our colleagues to be mentally and physically healthy. I think it's really important to make sure that we have the right opportunities or giving opportunities for our colleagues to be mentally and physically healthy. In the meantime, giving some flexibility and choosing flexibility. On the other hand, keeping or improving efficiency also in the organization, being active and giving top quality services for our customers.
Thank you. Melinda?
Yeah, in having a Hungarian employer, you know that it's a very tough labor environment. So what we realize, and I think everybody else realizing, it's really tough to be getting good people, good talents, motivate them, keep them, especially in our industry. It's a very long time to train them. And then what we realized in the last 1.5 years, basically, it's not enough to be okay employer lately. You need to be the best one to able to attract and keep your people. So, and I think that's what you need to be work every single day.
Wow. Thank you so much, Melinda, Veronika, and Máté. I really appreciate your honest and practical tips and advices and sharing your thoughts. So thank you so much for the discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda, Veronika, Máté, and Robbie. And now it is your turn to discuss the challenges of motivating employees in the new way of working. Now you are going to go again to the breakout rooms. If you experience any problem, you will find a telephone number in the letter we sent to you. Please do not hesitate to call us and we will help you. After 15 minutes, you are going to be redirected to the main conference platform. Welcome back. I hope you have had an interesting discussion. In our final panel, we are going to look at how to manage the transition into the new way of working, and we are going to speak about how to view office space differently and how to build resilient organizations. Please welcome on stage Tünde Kiss, Deputy CEO of the Hungarian Investment Promotion Agency, Mark Erdélyi, Chief Legal and Reputation Officer at Telenor, Jeroen Kirschbaum, Lead Country Manager and Lead Controller, Corporate Financial Services, ExxonMobil Business Center, Hungary, and our moderator, Bencze, Róbert Bencze, People and Organizations Director at PwC, AmCham board member. The floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is another panel discussion after the first two. We have been addressing motivational challenges, we have been addressing the new way of leadership, and the title of this discussion is Corporate Adjustment, but I would like to remind you and us that this is the Competitive Workforce Conference, so whenever we will address any corporate issues or challenges, we will do it in the context of how we can support the competitiveness of our workforce. I have to claim that this is a very strange discussion. So just to make it a little bit easier, that usually when we have this kind of panel discussions, that we have an audience in front of us, at least we talk to the audience or each other. Now we try to do the same through a camera. And I think this is one of the outcomes of the new way of working. Hopefully next year we have a live session. So I just wanted to claim this, that it's a bit challenging and strange. However, I think we will have a nice discussion. Corporate adjustments, which is about how corporations are reacting with their systems, with their approaches on the current situation. This is going to be a free discussion. However, we start with a generic question. So how is your organization reacting as a corporation with systems, with approaches in the last 18 months? What is happening now? What are your plans? Anybody can start freely, and then we will just connect to each other. Maybe Mark?
Okay. Yeah, it was a shock for all of us, and for as you had, and we had to do, I think, many things very quickly, and this is probably one of the biggest learning, that we have to be flexible and to react and adapt quickly to the changes which is unforeseen, and react to this uncertain world. I don't need to mention that digitalization probably is the other key word for this, what we have seen, because everything had to be turned digital. Even our HR processes, hiring and everything turned to digital. And this is, I think, what we will keep in the long run as well, to operate more digitally, more in an environment when we use the technology. And I'm very happy that with our services, Telenor could really help other businesses to survive in this environment.
You mentioned flexibility and digitalization. When this whole thing started last month, this pandemic situation just redesigned the operation. How was the readiness in digital, let's say, readiness, and in flexibility, the organization? Was it very far from the situation that you are having now? Or how was that?
We had capabilities, but probably, as you point out, even I think the mental awareness and the approach had to be changed totally, because we were, every big corporation is facing that we cannot do because of this, because of systems. We cannot do because we used to do this way. And we had to see that we have to do this.
You were forced.
And we were forced, and we were able to introduce the home office in a matter of days. And then we were able to train our leaders, to deal with this kind of remote work situation, help the employees to survive in this environment, and to establish kind of solidarity among our employees by doing a solidarity fund where people can contribute and help each other who are much more in need, but also kind of sewing masks for other employees. So I think it's also a matter of mindset.
Okay. Matter of mindset, but still lots of structural or systemic changes like digitalization and flexibility.
Yeah, I think Mark hit on a couple of the key points. I think we clearly achieved a lot more than we ever thought would be possible. And that says something about the resilience of the company, but also the resilience of the people. I think that's very impressive. And that's a great learning about ourselves and about the way to lead an organization as well. And it provides us with a good insight into the endless opportunities that we have. And with that, I think the way that we manage organizations, the way that we trust the workforce, the way that we build loyalty and engagement is completely changed in a very positive way, but with new challenges that we have to face as well.
Yeah, but this is a very interesting topic because you mentioned trust, you mentioned resilience, you mentioned transparency, which is, I think, relates back to the previous discussions on leadership style and engagement. But these are individual things. Yep. How can you boost this with corporate, let's say, system approaches? I mean, increasing the level of trust, increasing transparency, increasing the level of resilience. So what do you do as a corporation to enhance it or to boost it?
Yeah, I think one of the key things that we learned is the amount of trust that we really need to give to our workforce. And trust comes with responsibility. So you need to shift the way that you manage the organization to drive a lot more personal accountability as well.
Okay.
And that's a shift in a way of thinking. Now, practically what that means is that you also need to allow people to invest in themselves. And coming back to the earlier points made around skills and capabilities, it's really building that workforce and investing in employees in a way that they can professionally grow and that we make tangible investments into the skills and capabilities of the workforce. And that helps with that engagement as well.
Does it mean that maybe the performance objectives are changing with higher level of, let's say, responsibility?
Yeah, it's the performance objectives, but it goes beyond that as well. It's also how you measure it, right? Because it comes with that personal accountability and with that trust, that you focus a lot more on the tangible results than what they actually execute, right? So you have to take a step back and empower your workforce a lot more, and with that comes a different way of measuring the effectiveness.
Okay, but it needs new skills, new approaches, but it came with the new responsibility. I have to recall the stories from last March and April, because even from my company and from clients, that I remember leaders were really scared about the new situation. How was that with your company? How was that reaction?
As I mentioned, it was a shock for all of us, and I need to admit, talking about competitive workforce, that of course we were afraid what will happen with our company, and we, for instance, have to cut the cafeteria in the beginning, which in the end of the year we could compensate mostly, but we didn't know what will happen. So we just moved ahead. We didn't know whether we can keep our stores open to serve our customers. But fortunately, we could do that, and I think that helped a lot for all companies and all people here in Hungary to do much more things digitally, remotely, and then to avoid a lot of side effects and negative effects of this pandemic. But first, I fully agree, it was a shock. And by really entering into this situation and seeing that we can have solutions to continue our efforts and continue our targets achievement, even in this situation, I think that reassured us that there is a future.
Yeah. I remember funny stories that I think most of the companies had these digital collaboration platforms and everything, but I have seen many colleagues and many people who have been using it for the first time in their life last March or last April. So this is also something that they have been forced on that. But you mentioned also skills, and I will come back to the office itself, because I think that's also a challenge. But you mentioned skills and capabilities that are required. And maybe, Tunde, I'm asking you that you are working with investments and supporting investments in Hungary. What kind of, let's say, challenges you see? Is there any change now on the investment behavior, what they are looking for? Is it more important looking at the skills, what investors can find in Hungary?
Yes, Robbie. So we are at HIPA working closely together with those companies that would like to come to Hungary as a newcomers, and also working closely together with those companies which have presence here and would like to expand their activities. So we see both angles. And when we are seeing from the newcomers' point of view, of course, the most important question is how they can do business and minimize the risks, and what will be those type of skills that in case in Hungary will be available. And I think here is a big change, because they are absolutely focusing on the HR and the talent aspects, finding the skills, finding those people that will be quickly adaptable for this kind of new situation. Very important for the digital type of awareness and mindset, very important for them. Those type of functions and area, especially in the field of IT, technology, this is absolutely a kind of new trend. More and more businesses would like to come and find the talents in this field. And very important, the engineering and the R&D aspects as well. So we see more and more projects would like to bring not just the kind of transactional type of activities and the classical manufacturing type of activities, but also R&D and innovation. And the question was during the last year how they can see that, for example, the offices, the location, the infrastructure will be applicable and available. And in many cases that we discussed with the company representative, that the Hungarian companies were absolutely successful in this transition. They shifted their work quite quickly, and these type of examples serves absolutely a kind of best cases, not just in Europe, but also on a global basis, and gives the kind of confidence for them to bring more functions after the COVID and bringing more added value type of activities into the future. So when we see the 2020 results, we can see absolutely it was a challenging year, but from the FDI perspective and from the large scale of project perspectives was really, really successful. So 97 projects were managed by HIPA successfully in this field. And for example, the business service sector related activities is absolutely outstanding in this field. And they would like to bring more and more functions Hungary. So I think this will be key. But I absolutely focus on that the core success factor for Hungary will be how we can build the skills of the people.
I think Tunde is spot on, and that's definitely something that we're seeing as well. You know, every disruption comes with its challenges, and it sort of accelerates a transformation. And I think the transformation into more complex capabilities and skills is something that we've definitely seen, where not just for tomorrow, but also for the era ahead, it's going to be absolutely critical to make tangible, large investments in the capabilities of the workforce. We're seeing innovation and digital as key areas. That's where we need to make sure that as a country, we can continue to compete in the business services sector for the next decade. And with that, have to invest now. So we just launched a huge program, digital innovation program, where hundreds of our employees are spending hours every week to upskill their capabilities. And I think those type of things are extremely important to make sure that we stay ahead of competition, and we really get ready for the transformation and the challenges that are about to come. I think that is critical to stay ahead.
And just one additional comment in this respect. So in respect of the talents, the cooperation with educational institutions will be a very, very important factor after the COVID situation. Many good examples exist, absolutely good examples exist in the countryside as well, in Budapest as well. But I think further cooperation with educational institutions will be the key for the success of these companies.
But I think it can bring up a new opportunity, because if the investment is really based on the required skills, this is what you're mentioning, that it opens up an opportunity to companies that it is not location related. So even you can invest and come and open an office in Budapest without having all the talents concentrated in the capital or in the given city, because from the countryside you can hire someone via virtual, let's say, channels. And then if the skill or the capability is not in one location, you can just use it from multiple locations. Maybe that can be a kind of
a new opportunity.
A new opportunity, but it should be addressed by corporate,
Absolutely.
let's say, adjustments. And I think it goes back to the office, because then it seems that you don't need one office space. How about the office in New York? I mean, how you try to redesign, or what kind of role you will see in the future of the office, or what you are facing now?
I believe office space will be needed. So, and perhaps, as you mentioned in your intro speech, that one of the CEOs mentioned we were missing most was personal interactions. And you need some kind of space for that. You can call it office or whatever will be the future name of this, how people will meet and collaborate and work together. But I definitely see that will stay with us. It matters in what form and how flexible way we will transform these offices. We will have 2 mandatory home offices still, and we keep that. We are just inviting back our people to the office, and we expect them to be 3 days in the office and 2 days at home. And of course, that gives that flexibility. What we see, that's kind of a balance where you can work concentrated at home, wherever in the country, but there is some need for these personal interactions and to really form the culture and keep the culture of the company.
And does it mean some new redesigned spaces within the
We
office?
have, for instance, the garden office since last summer, so people can work. We have a spacious headquarters, Törökbálint, and it's full of green area surrounding, so you can work next to the headquarters and garden office. And of course, if the weather allows that, and that's very convenient, and you can enjoy the nature. And also we have quite space.
Without mask.
Without masks. And we have quite spacious office space, so even inside we take care of the proper spacing in these circumstances. So we are lucky in that sense. We don't need to change that much. We have some units where they don't even have fixed seats, so you can change your seats as you wish. So I think we have done a lot in the past to do this as flexible as possible, and adding some extra features like this garden office, I think, will help us move forward, and we will see, of course, how to adapt quickly.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the office will continue to be an important place to come together, to collaborate, to innovate, to learn, to socialize, to network, and to really build that community, which I think is very important as well. So that.
And are you ready for that, or you have to?
Well, I think we're in a
bit?
somewhat lucky position. We're moving to a new office, and in February it's a brand new office, and the workspace is really designed for that evolution.
After COVID situation.
Exactly. Yeah, it's perfect timing. But the focus of how we use the space is evolving, and with that, there's a lot more space dedicated to training, to learning, to places where you can do workshops, where you can socialize. It's not the traditional office environment, and I think that's something that you're going to see, that the office space and how we use space is going to evolve, to Mark's points as well, with more spaces used to interact. So that you don't come to an office to just do your emails, because you can do that from home, but to really come together for some of that structured and unstructured collaboration.
And I've heard very interesting examples from organizations when there is no opportunity for redesigning or rebuilding the office immediately, and then in this new situation, the need for meeting rooms are increasing.
Yeah.
Then most of the leaders or managers have left their offices and they just offered it as a community space, and they just went into the open space.
Yeah.
So I think it has also an implication on the corporate culture as a structure as well,
Yeah.
because you cannot redesign and rebuild an office like this. Maybe you are lucky that you are just moving into a new one soon, but many organizations will have these challenges. And yes, it's very interesting to hear that the community spaces or community places will be increasing, because I think this is what we hear from people, that they want to come back and meet each other, work together, see and feel each other. As you have seen, even CEOs are missing the people.
Yeah, I think the cultural elements, having that sense of belonging, building community is critical. And since the start of COVID, we hired more than 500 people. They've never worked in an office full time. They don't know all of their colleagues. And it's just a missed opportunity to really get them connected and make them feel home at work. And that's something that I think most people are missing. It's not so much the daily impact and their ability to get the work done, but it's the long-term impact to having them connected to a company and really being able to grow within a company as well.
Endless time for discussion, I think, but we have to stop. And I think we have to give the floor to our colleagues in the small groups to discuss further. Thank you very much for the inspiring ideas, because I think all these questions are important and interesting for us. And let's see how we can address these challenges in the small group discussions. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Tunde, Mark, Jeroen, and Robbie. And now let's discuss the same topic in the breakout rooms. After 15 minutes, you are going to be redirected to the closing session. With that, we have arrived at the end of the conference. I hope you agree with me that we have experienced a lot of interesting discussion, and we heard a lot of new approaches which gave us munition to lead the change. István, what was your experience during the day? How did you feel moderating the panels and the breakout discussions? And what are your most important takeaways?
So first of all, thank you very much for asking me to be one of the leader of the panel discussion. For me, it was really exciting. And I remember that when you and the two gentlemen opened the conference today, you all wished to us more personal and less online conference next time. And when I was part of this panel discussion, I had this kind of feeling, having more personal interaction, because this is the advantage of having a conference, right? To meet in person, to meet new people, and changing experiences. So I had this kind of feeling during the panel discussion. And although we came from different background, or with different background from different sector, I think the topic like leadership or redefining leadership was really interesting and made the connection between us immediately. And it was also good to see during this conference that the leaders are really optimistic about the future. So we learned a lot in the last 14 months, but we can bring these learnings together with us in the future. I'm sure that there will be more challenges like flexibility, office space, engagement, and things like that. But we shouldn't be afraid of the future. I think we shouldn't be afraid of being resilient. And I fully agree with Zoltán, who said at the beginning, we must be resilient. Leaders should be resilient. And that's, for me, this is really the most important takeaway from today.
Thank you, István, and thanks for supporting the preparation of this conference. For me, the most nicest feeling is that it's good to see that whatever industry you come from, leaders take it really seriously, how to manage their people, how to motivate them, recognizing that this is almost the most important factor for their future success. And I have to admit, I am also relieved a bit that we are at the end of this conference, and I would like to say a lot of thanks for all the organizers, especially to my team who are here with us, because it was a great experience to organize this online conference, and thanks to the technical staff as well. It was a great experience, but I have to admit that I hope it was the last experience, because I would love to think that next time we are going to be all here together. And also let me say thanks to our organizational partner HIPA, the Hungarian Investment Promotion Agency, and saying thanks again to our sponsors, Arconic-Köfém, Bridgestone, BT Rock, Citi, ExxonMobil, Philip Morris International, PwC, Tata Consulting Services, and Telenor. And there is nothing else to wish a very nice afternoon, and please take care of yourself, and hope to see you all before we go all for summer holiday, because we are preparing for some surprises to you to meet in person at the end of this month. Thank you for staying with us today, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.